So Conkeldurr in Pokemon Sword and Shield is pretty much just a bulky attacker. That's pretty much what it is. Actually, he's a bulky attacker and he's really good under Trick Room with 45 speed and 140 attack. But he has some good bulk too at 105 health, 95 defense. 65 defense isn't great, but when you have so much health, it kind of makes you tankier. And he has 55 special attack. He's not a special attacker, but his abilities are Guts, Sheer Force, and Iron Fist. Actually really good abilities, especially for a physical attacker. Guts is really good because it ignores burn. Guts is really good because it ignores burn, mainly. Sheer Force is really good if you have moves that have secondary effects that like have a chance to flinch or things like that. It doesn't help for moves that lower your own stats, but for things that have like flinch and stuff like that, it's really good. Iron Fist is just good for punches moves. It doesn't do Sucker Punch, but I actually don't even think Conkeldurr learned Sucker Punch. But it's really good with Iron Fist if you run the coverage. Well, I wouldn't. Actually, I was gonna say Iron Fist is really good with like the punch moves, but I think actually the punch moves are better. They get the Sheer Force boost, which means they're better with Sheer Force. Yeah, 10% chance to freeze, 10% chance to burn. I think paralyzed too. Thunder Punch. Yeah, for the most part, with the exception of like Hammer Arm, most of the punch moves are better with Sheer Force, just straight up. But he's pure fighting, which it's a good typing, honestly. It's like a good neutral typing. He's only weak to flying, psychic, and fairy, and he resists rock, bug, and dark. And a lot of neutral hits, and Conkeldurr is so bulky with the 105 health and decent defense. It would like average, it's below average special defense, but his defense is good enough to where he can survive neutral. He can survive neutral hits regardless, but especially physical hits, he can survive a lot better. But the main way Conkeldurr is ran is just bulky attacker with Flame Orb, max attack, max health. You could also drop one of these moves for protect. You drop probably, you can drop one of them for protect. I would say Hammer Arm's good stab. I would keep Hammer Arm. I wouldn't really run close combat because you're gonna get hit. You do close combat and then you're guaranteed to get KO'd. I think at that point. Earthquake's good coverage. Stone Edge is really good for flying types because Hammer Arm Earthquake is really weak to flying types, and also really good for something like a Corviknight or a Skarmory now. And Facade, you can drop Facade for Protect so you can get the Flame Orb first turn, guaranteed without taking damage. You could also Dynamax with this, would be really good. You Protect, then you Dynamax. That would be probably better. Is Protect Dynamax. If you're gonna Dynamax, I would drop Facade for Protect, but 140 base power. Neutral hit, that's a lot of damage, especially with a 140 attack. It's really good. But the good thing about Guts is it ignores burn, so you're just getting a pure 1.5. But you can also drop Facade for something like Drain Punch if you want the sustain, or I would drop Hammer Arm for Drain Punch. But you could run something like the Mach Punch if you want the priority. Knockoff's pretty good, but you could also run, where is it? Payback too. Trying to find it. I know he learns Payback or Revenge. Payback or Revenge. You could run Revenge instead of Hammer Arm too, and on pretty much every Conkeldurr. That Revenge is really good on any Conkeldurr. Same with Payback. They're both really good as long as you're not running Trick Room. They're really good because this is 100 base power. Revenge will have 120, but kind of have to get hit or kind of be slow. But Trick Room really gets in the way of that. This Conkeldurr is really in Trick Room though too. If you can set a Trick Room, bring them in, and get a KO. And then Flame Orb activates, and whatever comes in is taking a monster hit. But another way to run him is Life Orb. The pretty much any Sheer Force Pokemon can do this. Sheer Force, Life Orb. You get the free 1.3, and since this is technically a secondary effect, Sheer Force gets rid of that. Plus, you get a 1.3 from Sheer Force, a 1.3 from Life Orb, plus his massive attack, and it's really good. So pretty much, also Poison Jab. He has a lot of coverage. It just depends on what you want to have coverage-wise and what you're worried about. But being a fighting type, something like Corviknight, well, I guess with this one you don't really need Stone Edge. You'll hit Corviknight neutrally, but just like a pure flying, or not a pure flying, but a flying and like normal flying and something that resists, I don't know, flying and something else. Sigilyph would give you a really big problem. But Life Orb, Sheer Force, max health, max attack. You take a hit and you just destroy whatever comes in. Revenge is really good because you're gonna get hit most of the time with this set. You're gonna get hit again, as long as you're not in Trick Room, you're gonna get hit, and you're gonna deal with a massive Life Orb, sheer Force boosted attack. One thing that does suck though about fighting types for the most part is they don't have many, other than Focus Blast. I think he doesn't really have anything that gets Sheer Force boosted to where it matters. Because this will have 120 base power, so without the Sheer, and it doesn't get Sheer Force. But Super Power doesn't get Sheer Force. Hammer Arm doesn't get it. Dynamic Punch gets it, but it's 50% accuracy, so it's high risk. But unless you have a no guard, like no guard, Conkeldurr would be really good next to something with no guard too, with Sheer Force. I don't know if I would run it with Dynamic Punch, but because you would only get slightly more power, but you can get Dynamic Punch. That actually gets an Iron Fist. Iron Fist would be better on Dynamic Punch with like a no guard next to you. But like he doesn't really get any fighting moves. Like Brick Break doesn't get it. Drain Punch doesn't. I don't think Drain Punch gets it either. Sheer Force boost. But like Low Sweep's Low Sweep gets it, but Low Sweep I think it puts it to like 80 or 90. I think it puts it to 90 base power. Probably 80 something. I think it puts it to 80 something with it, but pretty much just damage. Poison Jab for fairies. Earthquake for coverage. Earthquake's really good coverage. You could always drop Earthquake though too. I would say the last move should probably be Stone Edge or Rock Slide, something to hit flying types, because again, I guess Corviknight. I don't know. I would Stone Edge for just like a flying and psychic something, so you can hit it super effective, because flying would be a problem. Halucha is actually a good example. Halucha would be a problem, but you could always drop Stone Edge. I would run Rock Slide actually instead of Stone Edge, because Rock Slide gets the boost. Rock Slide gets the Sheer Force boost, and I think it does more damage. How much does Stone Edge do? I think Stone Edge does what, 100? Yeah, I think it does more damage. Stone Edge does, or Rock Slide does more damage, I think, at this point. If not, it's close, but it has higher accuracy, so I would run Rock Slide still. Earthquake's good coverage. Poison Jab actually gets Sheer Force too, so it's a good coverage. Fairy, you take a fairy hit, you take a Play Rough or something, and you just shred it. But this is a bulky Conkeldurr. Just bulk up, Drain Punch for sustain, Earthquake, and a really powerful knockoff. I always forget knockoff has this 1.5 if they have an item, so it's up there in damage. But what is it, about 90? It should be a little over 90 with if they have an item, so it's really good. You could also run Payback in this slot if you don't want to knock off their item, but it's either, do you want to do more damage and knock off, do you want to do less damage and knock off their item, or do you want to do more damage if you're slower? But Earthquake for coverage / Rock Slide for flying, Drain Punch sustain, and then just bulk up Citrus Berry. As for ability wise, you could put Iron Fist to get more from Drain Punch, Sheer Force. I don't think Sheer Force actually affects knockoff either, so yeah, I would say Iron Fist if you don't want to run Guts, but I would say Guts is the best ability, because the biggest threat to a physical attacker is a burn, and Guts, for one, ignores the burn for one, and as a bonus, it gives you extra attack, so I would run Guts. Plus, I mean, the monster Drain Punch you can get off, they get a lot of health back. But this is a doubles Conkeldurr, which is pretty much Hammer Arm, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and Wide Guard, because Wide Guard actually protects you from like Earthquake, Rock Slide, Heat Wave, things like that. And especially in a trick, this is actually a really good trick room doubles, and with something with like Telepathy or a Ranguru. Like a Ranguru is perfect for this pretty much, just because he has Telepathy. He trick rooms with Telepathy, so Earthquake doesn't affect him. And he can instruct either a Hammer Arm or Earthquake. He can instruct one of these moves. You can have the double chance to flinch. This one, again, I would say Guts again in case you get burned by like a Prankster or something like that. It's really good. Sheer Force would get the Rock Slide extra damage, but you lose the chance to get a double flinch with like an Instruct, or you still lose the 30% chance to flinch, which I would want that in doubles at least, especially if you have something else with Rock Slide or an Instruct. It's really good. I think Iron Fist boosts Hammer Arm, but that's about it. So Guts is the go-to ability on Conkeldurr just in case you get burned, because they run that risk of, they're like, oh, it's a physical attacker, I can burn them, but it's like, oh, with Conkeldurr, does he have Guts? Does he have Iron Fist? Does he have Sheer Force? Like, you run that risk of, I could burn him and just make him stronger. So I like having Guts, is that just lean back, oh, burn me, okay, now I'm really sweeping. But some of the other moves he learns, Bulldoze and doubles, I mean, I would run Earthquake, honestly. Unless you're doing something to where you need to lower their speed, I would run Bulldoze. Payback is a good move if you... Payback is 100 base power because you're so slow. Mag Punch for priority. With his high attack, too. With his max attack with Mach Punch. I think it's Mach Punch. It will do a lot of damage. Especially because you'll do probably like 20% of their health. So if you can hit them with a monster hit, mock punch, you can take them out. But some of the other moves he learns are Facade's really good if you're doing the thing. Again, high horsepower would pretty much never run. Like, unless you're in doubles and you're like, man, I don't want to hit my ally, I would never run high horsepower. It's pretty much earthquake, but it only targets one opponent. He also learns again all the punch moves: fire, ice, and thunder. So if you want one of those in for coverage, you can just throw one of those in, which is really good. I would almost never run power up punch now. Unless you're trick room and they have low health, I would. Unless you're like planning on trick roaming and like bring him in on something with low health and getting a power punch, and I would never use it. Rock Blast is always an option. Unless you're running Sheer Force, then Rock Slide's 100% better. But Rock Blast, if it hits 4 times, it does more damage. But something I also would not run Superpower, because you run the risk of, okay, I hit you, you live, I'm really weak now. Physical and like defensively, lowers his defense and attack. Coaching's a new move they added in the DLC. It's not a move. It's not a good move. Like, I don't think anything with Prankster learns it either. It's not that good of a move. And I don't think it might have priority, actually. I'm not sure. But again, Dynamic Punch. If you can get Dynamic Punch with a no guard next to you or something like that, it's still good. Gigantamax. I mean, it's looking like Giga Impact. But yeah, Retaliate, I guess. If you want to bring him in. If you bring him in, okay, he has 140 to attack. If you can bring him in as a revenge, he's KOing something with Retaliate. That's gonna do a lot of damage. If he was fast, like, you could also do Trick Room Reversal type thing, but he's so bulky that it's a super risk. I don't think he really has any moves that Stomping Tantrum would work with, other than like Focus Punch not working. But that's pretty much Conkeldurr. And if you want to know like a Dynamax Conkeldurr, I would run something like, I would run Hammer Arm, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and then probably Poison Jab. I would run Poison Jab for the fairies. Yeah, I would run that. You could also throw in one of the punches. I wouldn't say they're an option just for coverage. But that's how to use Conkeldurr in Pokemon Sword and Shield.